It was a cold Wednesday morning in Berlin. I was halfway through my first cup of coffee when my phone rang. The name on the screen, Theo, my lawyer. Nothing about that seemed strange at first, but something in me hesitated before I picked up. "Hey Theo," I said, my voice still heavy with sleep. "What's going on?" He didn't answer right away. The silence on the line stretched, thick and heavy. I could hear him exhale, like he was trying to choose his words carefully. "Lena," he said finally, "I need you to stay calm. It's about the condo." My stomach tightened. "What about it?" "It's been sold." For a moment, I thought I misheard him. "What?" The condo," he repeated, slower this time. "It's been sold." My heart slammed against my ribs. "That's impossible," I said, standing so fast my chair scraped against the floor. "I never agreed to sell anything. That's my inheritance." "I know," Theo said quietly, "but the transaction went through last week." Before we dive into this story, tell us where in the world you're watching from and what time it is. Right now, someone near you might be watching too. And don't forget to subscribe to support and appreciate the work we do on this channel. I stared at the window, my reflection blurring behind streaks of rain. It didn't make sense. Grandma Elise's condo was the last piece of her I had. The smell of her old perfume, the sound of the waves outside her porch, it all lived in that place. The thought of someone else walking through it made my chest burn. "There has to be a mistake," I said. "Send me the documents." "I already have," he said. "Check your email." "But Lena, there's something else." "What?" He hesitated again. "The paperwork, your signature's on it." I laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "That's ridiculous. I didn't sign anything." "I know," he said. "But the buyer, the notary, and the broker all verified it as yours. Whoever did this knew what they were doing." I dropped to my knees, the phone still pressed to my ear. "Theo, who sold it? Who could have done that?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, his voice dropped. "Your brother." Everything inside me went still. "Nolan." My throat went dry. "No," I whispered. "He wouldn't." "I'm sorry," Theo said, "but the sale traces back to him. He handled everything under a power of attorney." My vision blurred. My own brother. The one who promised to take care of things after Grandma passed. The one who hugged me at her funeral and said we'd protect her memory together. "He forged it," I said slowly, like the words were poison leaving my mouth. Theo sighed. "It looks that way." I felt my heartbeat in my ears. Betrayal isn't loud, it's quiet, like the world fading under water. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. "Lena," Theo said gently, "we'll figure this out, but I need you to see the documents first." I hung up without saying goodbye. My coffee sat cold on the counter, a dark puddle on the tiles where I dropped the cup. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I opened my laptop. The email from Theo was waiting. I clicked it. My breath caught as I saw the papers, everything neatly typed, perfectly formatted. And there it was. My name. My signature. The same loops, the same tilt, the same stroke under the L. That tiny loop changed everything. What would you have done if your own brother forged your name? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe now because the next part gets even darker. But I hadn't signed a thing. My eyes stung. I whispered into the empty apartment. He made it look like I did. The rain outside turned harder, tapping against the glass like a warning. My brother had crossed a line no one in our family had ever dared to cross, and deep down, I knew. This was only the beginning. The moment I opened the email, the room went silent. Even the rain outside sounded distant, like the world was holding its breath with me. The documents were attached in a single PDF, clean, professional, and cold. I clicked it open. My signature sat there in black ink. Perfect, confident, familiar. But it wasn't mine. I zoomed in until the screen blurred. Every curve, every loop, every flick of the pen, it looked exactly like something I'd written 100 times before. For a few seconds, I started to doubt myself. Maybe I had signed something months ago and forgotten. Maybe it was some form I didn't remember. But no, I knew every mark I'd made for that condo. Every paper tied to Grandma Elise's name was sacred to me. This wasn't me. I called Theo right away. "I'm looking at it," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. "That's not my signature." "I believe you," he replied, steady as always. "Look closely at the date. The transaction was processed on the 12th of last month. You were here in Berlin, right?" "Yes." "Then we can prove it. But whoever did this had access to your ID and your previous documents." My stomach sank. Nolan. Theo didn't respond. He didn't have to. I pushed my chair back and walked to the window, pressing my forehead against the cold glass. I remembered the day Nolan asked for copies of Grandma's will. He'd said he needed them for the family records. I trusted him. Of course I did, he was my brother. I clenched my fists. The betrayal felt physical now, heavy in my chest. How could he do this? I whispered. People do strange things when money's involved, Theo said. But the level of detail here, it's personal. He studied your handwriting. He practiced. That sentence cut deeper than I expected. He practiced. My own brother sat somewhere, copying my signature over and over until it looked perfect. I opened another page in the file. The buyer's name, the notary, the broker, it was all there. I recognized the real estate company too. A small local office near the beach. Nolan must have gone through them because he knew they wouldn't ask too many questions. Theo's voice broke my thoughts. Lena, listen carefully. I can stop the final fund transfer, but I need your statement and proof of identity today. Send me your passport copy. I'll file a fraud report immediately. Do it, I said, pacing the room. He's not getting away with this. Good, but be prepared, it might get ugly. I almost laughed. It already is. When I hung up, the apartment felt too small, too quiet. I sat on the edge of the couch, scrolling through the papers again, searching for something, anything that would prove it wasn't me. That's when I saw it. Page 6. The notary's signature was smudged, slightly uneven, like someone had used a scanned image. My eyes narrowed. The more I looked, the more off it felt. It wasn't just the signature, it was the date stamp too. It didn't match the official format. Theo would find it. He always did. But I knew something else deep down. This wasn't just legal fraud. This was personal war. I thought about Grandma Elise, the afternoons we spent baking lemon cookies, her telling me stories about how she built that condo with Grandpa's bare hands. She used to call it the house that love made. And Nolan, he sold it like a used car. The air in my chest turned sharp. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry. I looked again at that fake signature, my name, written by my brother's greed, and felt something inside me harden. He'd taken what was mine. He'd lied to our family. He thought he could bury it. But he'd made one mistake. He forgot who taught me to fight. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that fake signature, my name, stolen and twisted. I wanted to scream, but instead, I stared at the ceiling, replaying memories I hadn't thought about in years. Grandma Elise's condo. The one Nolan sold like it meant nothing. I could still smell it. Lemon cookies baking in the oven, sea salt drifting through the open balcony doors. She used to hum while she cooked, always the same song, soft and slow, like she was stitching peace into the air. When I was little, I'd sit at the kitchen counter, legs swinging, watching her knead dough. "You've got to work it with love," she'd say, pressing her palms into it. "If you rush love, it breaks." She never rushed anything. Not her cookies, not her life. The condo was small but full of life. Every corner told a story. The faded armchair by the window, the crack in the wall shaped like a lightning bolt, the little blue vase that always had fresh flowers. I used to think it was magic that somehow Grandma could make anything bloom. I smiled for half a second before the reality hit again. Nolan took all of that. Not just a property. He sold her. Her warmth, her laughter, her lessons, all of it gone. I got up and walked to my desk. There was an old box tucked underneath letters, photos, and a tiny jar of sand from the beach near the condo. I pulled out a photo of Grandma and me on the porch. I was 7, missing 2 teeth, holding one of her lemon cookies like it was treasure. She looked so proud, so alive. A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. I whispered, "I'm sorry, Grandma. I should have protected it." But then I heard her voice in my head, as clear as that day in the kitchen. "Don't let life make you small, Lena." It hit me like lightning. I remembered that moment, her holding my chin, looking me straight in the eyes after my parents' first big argument. "Life will try to shrink you," she'd said. "People too. But when you know who you are, you stay tall." I wiped my tears and grabbed my phone. There was no way I was letting Nolan win. I called Theo again. He picked up instantly. "I'm in," I said. "Whatever it takes." "Good," he replied, "because I just found something strange." I straightened up. "What?" "The transaction logs. Nolan used a proxy to access your old digital files. It's sloppy, but enough to trace. And there's something else you were right about the notary. It's a fake. I let out a shaky breath. Then we've got him. Theo hesitated. Almost. We'll need hard proof. Something only the real signer could know. I looked down at the photo in my hand, the one where Grandma was holding the cookie tin. Inside that tin, she used to hide her will documents. She'd told me once, half-jokingly, "When I'm gone, you'll find my heart where the cookies are." The condo wasn't just property, it was her legacy. And now, that legacy was being ripped apart by someone who shared my blood. But not for long. I pressed the photo to my chest and whispered her words again. "Don't let life make you small." I wasn't going to. I would find the proof. I would expose him. And when I did, Nolan would wish he never picked up a pen. By morning, I was done crying. The sadness had burned itself into something sharper, something that felt like steel. I called my parents before I could talk myself out of it. Mom answered first. "Lena, it's early there. Are you okay?" I didn't bother with small talk. "Did you know Nolan sold Grandma's condo?" The silence on the line was deafening. Then, a soft sigh. "Oh, honey, he told us you agreed." I froze. "What?" "He said you both talked about it, that you wanted to move on." My pulse jumped. "That's a lie. I never said that, Mom. He forged my signature." Her tone shifted, defensive, nervous. "Lena, are you sure? Maybe you forgot. These things get complicated." "Stop." My voice cracked, anger trembling under every word. "You think I'd sell the only piece of Grandma I had left?" Dad's voice entered now, calm but heavy. "Lena, we don't want this to turn into something ugly. Nolan said he used the money for family investments. You know he always tries to help." I laughed bitterly. "Help? He stole from me." Dad sighed. "Look, sweetheart, maybe he made a mistake, but taking him to court isn't the answer. Your siblings, you'll regret it later." That sentence, "you'll regret it later," hit me like a hammer. It was the same thing they said when Nolan broke my bike at 10, when he borrowed money and never paid it back, when he lied his way through everything. Every time, I was told to forgive. Every time, he learned he could get away with more. "Do you even hear yourselves?" I said, my throat tight. "You're protecting the thief, not the victim." Mom tried to sound soothing, but it came out cold. "Please don't make this ugly, Lena." That broke something in me. "I'm not the one who made it ugly," I said. "He did." Before she could answer, I hung up. The room felt smaller now, the air heavier. I stared at my reflection in the dark phone screen. My own family had chosen to believe a lie because it was easier. My phone buzzed again. A message from Theo. "Theo, found something interesting. Call me when you can." I called immediately. "Tell me it's good news." "Sort of," he said. "I've traced the fake documents back to Nolan's email. He used your old cloud backups, photos, notes, everything. That's how he got your signature samples." I clenched my jaw. "He used my memories to rob me." "Exactly. But here's the thing, he slipped up. There's a gap in the timestamps on one file. Looks like he edited the signature image at 2:13 a.m. from his home network. So we can prove it's him?" "Getting close. We just need to show inconsistency between the real and fake signature." I sat back, exhaling hard. "Then, that's our way in." Theo paused. "Lena, there's something else you should know. Once this goes public, it's going to tear the family apart." I stared at the rain-streaked window. My reflection looked like a stranger. They already chose their side. The words hung there for a long moment before Theo replied quietly, "Then let's make sure the truth speaks louder than they do." When the call ended, I stared at Grandma's photo again. I remembered her saying, "Family is supposed to protect you, but if they don't, protect yourself." I took a deep breath. The sadness was gone now. What was left was resolve. If I had to stand alone, so be it. Because from this point on, I wasn't the hurt sister anymore. I was the storm coming for what was mine. Theo and I got to work fast. There was no time to sit around feeling betrayed anymore. I sent him every document I had, emails, old letters, scans of Grandma's will, anything that might help prove the signature was fake. For the next 2 days, I barely slept. My apartment turned into a crime lab. Papers covered the floor, screenshots filled my desktop, and sticky notes lined the walls. Every little detail mattered now. Every click Nolan made was a breadcrumb. Theo called late one night. "I've been digging through the metadata," he said. "There's something weird about the file Nolan used to fake your signature. What do you mean? He used a PDF converter that leaves a trace watermark. It's registered to his computer. It's sloppy, but it's there. My pulse kicked up. So we can tie the document to him directly? Yes, he said. But we need visual proof too, something the court can see instantly. I sat in silence, staring at the real signature I'd written on Grandma's will years ago. I compared it to the fake one Nolan used. At first glance, they were identical, but then something caught my eye. Theo, I said, grabbing a magnifying glass from my desk drawer. Zoom in on the capital L. He did. The fake signature looked perfect except for one small thing. The heart-shaped loop in the L. In every document I'd ever signed, I drew a tiny curve at the bottom of that loop, like a small heart. Grandma used to tease me for it when I was little. Even your L's have love in them, she'd say. But on this version, that little loop was gone. Straight, cold, lifeless. I felt a surge of adrenaline. He missed it, I whispered. He forgot the loop. Theo's voice sharpened. That's it. That's his mistake. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally had power again. We ran a side-by-side comparison. Theo outlined the missing loop in red. A handwriting expert can confirm this in minutes. It's enough to open a fraud investigation. I leaned back, heart pounding. Then let's do it. He hesitated. Lena, once we file this, it's official. There's no going back. Your brother will be charged with document fraud. I thought of Grandma's condo, the sound of her laughter echoing down the hall, the way Nolan smirked at her funeral when he said, I'll take care of everything. He hadn't taken care of anything. He'd taken everything. File it, I said. If he wanted a war, he's got one. Theo didn't argue. Okay, I'll contact the handwriting expert tomorrow morning. After the call, I stood by the window, watching the city lights flicker below. For the first time since this started, I didn't feel helpless. I felt focused, dangerous, but beneath the anger, there was something else: sadness, the kind that sits deep in your chest and won't leave. I never wanted to destroy my brother. I just wanted him to love me the way Grandma did. I closed my eyes and whispered, You shouldn't have done this, Nolan. Then I opened my laptop again. The fake signature glowed on. The screen, bold and wrong. That little missing heart loop was more than a handwriting flaw. It was the line between truth and betrayal. He thought he was clever, but that missing curve, the one he ignored, was about to become the reason he lost everything. The flight to Florida felt endless. I didn't sleep, didn't watch movies, didn't eat. I just stared out the window, watching clouds roll past like ghosts. Every mile brought me closer to the truth and to Nolan. Theo had called that morning before I boarded. The case is moving fast, he said. The court approved a preliminary hearing. Once you land, we'll file the full claim. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Good. Let's end this. He paused. You sound different. I am, I said. I'm done being quiet. Now, sitting on the plane, I could almost see the coastline below. The same blue stretch Grandma used to point at from her balcony. That ocean will always tell you who you are, she used to say. When the plane landed, the heat hit me like a wall. Florida's air carried the scent of salt and sun. For a second, I almost broke. Every corner of this place reminded me of her. The market where she bought flowers, the road we used to walk at sunset. But I didn't come here to mourn. I came to fight. Theo was waiting outside the airport, leaning against his car with a file in his hand. You ready for this? He asked. I looked at the file. Inside it was everything: proof. Statements, photos of my real signature, Nolan's fake documents, the digital trail, the heart loop that would destroy his lie. More than ever, I said. We drove straight to the courthouse. My stomach twisted the whole way. Theo briefed me on the plan. We'd present the forged documents, the metadata, and the handwriting analysis. Nolan's defense wouldn't have time to spin it. But the real battle wouldn't be in the courtroom, it would be seeing him again. When I arrived, I spotted his car parked outside. Same license plate, same smugness. My hands tightened into fists. Inside, the air was thick with tension. People whispered, papers shuffled, heels clicked on the tiled floor. I followed Theo into the prep room, where he laid everything out. Once we file this, he said, the sale will be frozen. The condo's ownership will revert pending judgment. He won't see it coming. I stared at the papers and thought about Grandma's last letter. Her warning about love and pain. She knew family could wound deeper than anyone else. Theo glanced at me. You okay? I'm fine, I said quietly. Just, ready. He smiled faintly. That's what I wanted to hear. We walked toward the courtroom doors. My heart pounded so hard it felt like everyone could hear it. Just before we entered, Theo stopped and faced me. You sure you want to see him? He asked. You could let me handle the statements. I shook my head. No. He needs to see me. He needs to see what he did. The doors creaked open. I stepped inside. There he was. Nolan, my brother, sitting at the defense table in a crisp suit, pretending like he hadn't torn our family apart. He looked up and for the first time, I saw it. The flicker of guilt behind his fake confidence. Our eyes met. No words, no smiles, just a silence sharp enough to cut through bone. Theo placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You ready for this? He whispered. I took a breath, my voice steady, cold. I was born ready. The judge entered. Everyone rose. The room fell still. As I stood there, staring at my brother, I remembered Grandma's balcony, the way the wind carried her laughter across the sea. And I knew this wasn't just about justice. It was about taking back my name, my voice, my peace. The sound of the gavel echoed through the courtroom, sharp and final. My heart thudded once, then steadied. I didn't blink. I couldn't. Nolan sat across the room, calm on the outside, but I saw the twitch in his jaw. He was nervous. Good. The judge adjusted her glasses. Case number 2147, Lena Carter versus Nolan Carter. Theo rose smoothly. Your Honor, this is a case of property fraud, identity forgery, and breach of inheritance trust. My client's signature was falsified to illegally sell her late grandmother's condo. I glanced at Nolan. He avoided my eyes, pretending to shuffle papers. His wife, Mara, sat behind him, arms crossed, face pale. The judge nodded. Proceed. Theo stepped forward and projected the sale documents onto the screen. My fake signature glowed across the wall like a wound. This, he said, pointing, is the signature used to authorize the sale. Now, this, he clicked to the next image, is Miss Carter's authentic signature from verified bank records. The room went silent. Notice the missing loop at the base of the L, Theo said. A unique detail that appears in every legitimate sample. The forged version omits it completely. He zoomed in, red circling the tiny difference. Even from across the room, it was impossible to ignore. The judge leaned forward. That's quite distinct. Yes, Your Honor, Theo said, and according to our handwriting expert, this difference is not accidental, it's fabricated. The signature was digitally lifted from an old document, altered, and inserted into the sale contract. Nolan's lawyer stood. Objection. Speculation. Theo didn't flinch. Not speculation, Your Honor. We have the metadata. He tapped the laptop. Another screen appeared, the timestamp logs showing Nolan's computer ID linked to the edited PDF. The judge's tone hardened. Mr. Carter, is this your system ID? Nolan shifted. I don't know. I have multiple devices. Theo didn't let him breathe. So you deny accessing your sister's documents from your account at 213 a.m.? Nolan's face turned red. That's not this is being twisted. The judge raised a hand. Watch your tone, Mr. Carter. Murmurs spread through the courtroom. Even Mara leaned away from him, her expression cracked with disbelief. Theo turned to me. Miss Carter, can you confirm you were in Berlin at the time of this sale? Yes, I said clearly. I was working on a design project. My passport and bank logs prove it. The judge nodded. Noted? Theo delivered the final blow. Then, Your Honor, it's clear. This sale was unauthorized, and the defendant's actions constitute deliberate fraud. The judge turned to Nolan. Mr. Carter, do you have anything to say? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Just silence. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I was going to give her the money later. The judge's gavel hit the desk. That's not how the law works. This isn't a family squabble, it's theft. The word theft hit the air like thunder. I felt my knees tremble, but I didn't move. Nolan looked at me then, eyes wide with panic. Lena, please. I can fix this. We can settle privately. I didn't answer. I didn't even blink. The judge spoke again. Until a full ruling is issued, the condo sale is void, and all funds are frozen. The court will also recommend charges for document forgery and perjury. Theo leaned toward me. "We did it," he whispered. But I didn't smile. I couldn't. Not yet. Because this wasn't victory, it was consequence. Nolan's mask was slipping. The confident smirk was gone, replaced with fear. For once, he looked small. The gavel hit again. "This court is adjourned." As people began to file out, I turned one last time toward him. He mouthed something I couldn't hear. Maybe sorry. Maybe help me. I didn't care. Justice had finally spoken louder than family lies. The courtroom emptied, but I didn't move. My hands rested on the table, still trembling. The gavel's echo was gone, yet the sound lingered inside me like thunder that refused to fade. Theo packed up the files quietly. "You did good," he said. I didn't answer. My eyes stayed fixed on Nolan. He sat across the room, shoulders slumped, his perfect suit wrinkled, his face pale. He looked like someone who finally realized the storm he started had turned against him. Mara stood beside him, whispering something I couldn't hear. But I saw the moment she stepped back. Her wedding ring glinted under the fluorescent lights, and then she slid it off. Nolan reached for her hand, desperate. She shook her head, tears in her eyes, and walked out. No words, no goodbye, just silence and footsteps. Theo leaned closer to me. "You still want to press full charges?" I nodded. He didn't just take money, he took memories. He made Grandma's home a lie. Theo gave a small, proud smile. Then we finished what we started. Minutes later, the bailiff returned with a folder. "The judge signed the order," he said. "Restitution, damages, and pending criminal review." Theo flipped through the pages. "He's facing up to 5 years, maybe more if they prove intent." Nolan's lawyer whispered something, but Nolan wasn't listening. His eyes finally found mine. For a long moment, we just stared at each other, two people who used to share Christmas mornings, now standing on opposite sides of justice. He tried to speak, but all that came out was a hoarse, "Lena, please." The sound of it hit something deep in me. For a second, I saw the boy who used to protect me from bullies, who built sandcastles with me on Grandma's beach. But that version of him was gone, buried under greed and lies. I stood, my chair scraped against the floor. "You made your choice," I said quietly. "Now live with it." He reached out as if to stop me, but I stepped back. His voice cracked. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I almost laughed. "You didn't just hurt me. You buried everything Grandma stood for." Theo touched my arm gently. "Let's go." We walked toward the exit, the air thick with the kind of silence that comes after destruction. Each step felt heavy, but freeing. Outside the courthouse, the Florida sun was blinding. I closed my eyes and let it burn away the last of my hesitation. Reporters were waiting, their cameras clicking, voices shouting. I ignored them all. Theo guided me toward the car. "You know," he said, "you could have asked for a settlement. You would have gotten a big payout." I shook my head. This wasn't about money. He smiled faintly. "I figured you'd say that." Before getting in the car, I turned back toward the courthouse doors. Through the glass, I saw Nolan one last time alone now. No lawyer, no wife, no family backing him. Just him, sitting in the same chair where he'd once looked untouchable. He looked up at me again, eyes full of regret. I didn't feel satisfaction, just peace. Theo started the car. "What are you thinking?" I looked out the window, watching the courthouse grow smaller behind us. "I'm thinking Grandma was right." "About what?" "People you love can still hurt you, but you don't let it make you small." Theo nodded slowly. "Then I'd say you did her proud." I smiled faintly. "No, Theo, she did me proud. I just remembered who I am." The condo was mine again, but the victory wasn't about ownership, it was about truth. Nolan had fallen, but I had risen back to myself. The condo key felt heavier than it used to. I stood outside the door for a long time before unlocking it. The sound of the latch clicking open echoed through the empty hallway like a heartbeat returning after too long. When I stepped inside, everything smelled the same salt, old wood, and lemon cleaner. Dust floated through the sunlight. The curtains were still floral, faded from years of ocean wind. The air hummed with silence. I took a slow breath. "I'm home," I whispered, but it didn't feel like home yet. Not until I made peace with what had happened. I set my bag down and started walking through the rooms. Each one held ghosts. The dent on the kitchen counter where Grandma dropped her mixing bowl, the crooked picture of the beach she insisted on hanging herself, the tiny crack in the ceiling shaped like a heart. Every corner whispered her name. I ran my fingers along the kitchen table. It was smooth now. Nolan must have had it cleaned. That thought made my chest tighten. Even when he tried to erase her, traces of her love were still here. I opened the cabinets. The same blue dishes sat neatly stacked. But one tin caught my eye, Grandma's old cookie tin, the one she used to hide recipes and coins in. The metal was rusted now, the paint chipped. I pulled it down carefully, my hands shaking. Inside were a few faded photos, a broken keychain, and a sealed envelope. My name written in her handwriting, Lena. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I sat at the table and turned the envelope over in my hands. The paper was thin, the ink slightly smudged. I tore it open. Her voice came back with every word I read. My sweet girl, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But that doesn't mean I've left you. This home will always belong to your heart. People you love might hurt you, not because they don't love you, but because they're lost. Forgive, but never forget who you are. Don't let life make you small. You were born to stand tall, even when the world bends around you. The tears came before I could stop them. I pressed the letter to my chest, sobbing quietly. It wasn't just a message, it was a lifeline from the past, reaching out to remind me that I wasn't broken. I stood up and walked to the balcony. The ocean stretched endlessly before me, calm and blue. The same view Grandma loved. I could almost hear her humming. I wiped my face and read the letter again, slower this time. Each word felt like a piece of her soul stitched into mine. Theo texted me right then. Case closed. Full ownership restored. You did it. I smiled through the tears. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I folded the letter neatly and placed it back in the tin. It didn't belong hidden anymore. It belonged where her picture hung, beside the window, where the light touched it every morning. I whispered softly. You were right, Grandma. They hurt me, but I'm still standing. Outside, the waves crashed gently against the shore. I closed my eyes and let the sound wash over me, the same rhythm that raised me, the same voice that healed me. For the first time in months, I felt peace. Not revenge, not victory, just peace. The kind Grandma always promised would come if I chose love over bitterness. I whispered into the wind, "Thank you." And for a second, I swore I heard her answer back, a soft laugh, carried by the sea breeze. Morning sunlight spilled through the windows, warm and golden. For the first time in years, I woke up in Grandma's condo without pain pressing on my chest. Just quiet. Just peace. I walked barefoot across the cool floor. The air smelled like salt and coffee, my two favorite things. The ocean outside was calm, the waves moving slow, steady, like they were breathing with me. I had spent the past week restoring the place. Every nail, every picture frame, every corner of this home was touched by my hands. The broken porch light now glowed again at night. The garden out back, once dry and forgotten, bloomed with white lilies, Grandma's lilies. I ran my hand along the wall as I walked to the kitchen. It used to feel haunted. Now it felt alive again. Theo had called the night before. Everything's final, he'd said. The condo's legally yours again. Nolan's assets are frozen until he pays. Restitution. I'd thanked him, but truthfully, I didn't care about the money anymore. I cared about the air in this room, the silence that didn't hurt, the feeling of coming full circle. I poured a cup of coffee and stood by the window, staring at the horizon. The same ocean Grandma watched every morning. For a second, I imagined her standing next to me, hands wrapped around her mug, hair tied back, humming softly. Not bad, huh? I said under my breath. I finally fixed the porch, just like you wanted. The wind answered with a soft push through the curtains. It felt like her approval. That afternoon, I opened my laptop. The restitution funds had cleared. I smiled. Not because it was money, but because it meant closure. It meant starting over. I used part of it to open a small design studio, Grandma Elise Studio. Nothing fancy, just a place where I could build something of my own. Every wall painted white, every desk facing sunlight. I even framed her letter and hung it by the entrance. The first line was bold and simple. People you love might hurt you. Don't let life make you small. Clients came and went, but everyone who walked in always paused at that line. And every time they did, I smiled. They didn't know it, but that sentence had saved me. Later that evening, I walked back to the condo with fresh flowers. I placed them on the table, opened the windows wide, and let the sea breeze fill the room. Outside, the sky turned orange and pink. The sun sank slowly into the water, just like it used to when Grandma and I watched from the balcony. I whispered, "You were right about everything." The air felt lighter, my heart too. I took one last look around the family photos, the cookie tin on the shelf, the old vase with the single flower. This place wasn't just a building anymore. It was proof that love outlasts betrayal. I locked the door for the night, the key cool in my hand. As it clicked shut, I smiled softly. Because every time I turned that key, I wasn't just protecting bricks and walls, I was protecting the promise Grandma left behind. A promise that no lie, no betrayal, no broken family could ever erase. I whispered one last time, "Thank you for not letting me give up." And as the night settled, I could almost hear her humming from the kitchen, soft, gentle, endless. Every time I unlock that front door, I hear her humming in the kitchen. If this ending touched your heart, drop a fi in the comments for Grandma Elise. And don't forget to subscribe, more stories like this are coming, and you won't want to miss the next one.